it used to be that a man would go off, make his wealth, build up himself, and then come back and find a wife. Does the same thing still obtain today? And more importantly, as we live in a world of independence and women are going off and making wealth, does it work both ways? Today we're going to have an awesome conversation on the working trade when we explore the idea of, is money ruining your relationship? And as always, let me welcome my guests and have them introduce themselves. And the 5 top questions: name, age, relationship status, what do you do for work, and the highest education level completed.
My name is Rochelle Yours. I work as a dental assistant in training. I'm 37 currently, soon to be 38.
Relationship status?
I'm courting.
You're courting.
Yes.
All right, awesome.
My name is Linville Johnson. Good evening, everyone. What's the other one? My age? I'm
Age, yes.
46, I think.
Relationship status? Relationship status?
I am a single professional male.
Single professional male. And what do you do for work besides being professional? Or what are you professional at?
Male.
I'm a banker by profession.
Banker by profession.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, at the top of the show, what we're going to do is we're going to watch this video. And in this video, there's this passionate plea by this young lady who has gotten to a stage in her life where she's built up everything, but she can't seem to find the one thing that she's looking for currently, that relationship. Dwayne?
Quick question. Are you kidding me? Like, I am so
And you're probably
sick and
seeing it on the
tired
screen, but we're waiting for the
of
audio to get
just-
sorted. And as soon as we can get... What's really happening?
Stop doing this.
In
Stop thinking like
2024,
this. Stop
Is
doing like
money
stop
ruining
telling me I'm
your
wrong.
love life?
I've
audience
literally
online, those
convinced
of you who are
myself at
listening
this
online
point based
are
on
able to
everything that
hear.
everyone have it. I feel like I have done so much work on myself. I have built
Masculinity,
a beautiful
accountability,
life
and
for myself. I'm happy with my life where I'm at, my job.
All right,
I'm
Nick.
successful. I'm independent. I'm healthier than I've ever been.
All right,
Such good care of myself.
let's see if we
Truly
can
the
get a
only thing
quick
I miss. What?
Life is awesome.
I just want love in my life so bad. I want my life partner. I just
For those of you listening on Praise
am I just
87.9
supposed to be
FM, we
alone?
invite
Like,
you
is
to join
that
the
the message?
conversation. It's
That
going to
this
kick
beautiful
in
life
the
I built for
phone
myself,
number
like, it's
any
just
minute
supposed to
now.
be me
And
in
one
it
day I'm going to
alone?
remember it, so I don't have to. I'll just go
like
off
I know I
it.
have my dog and I wants to build a life with me. Is that so hard? Quick question. Are you kidding me? Like, I... Quick question. Are you kidding me? Like, I am so sick and tired of just everything right now. Everyone is so quick to say, stop doing this, stop thinking like this, stop doing, stop telling me I'm wrong. I have literally convinced myself at this point, based on everything that everyone's telling me, my therapist, my family, my friends, that I'm just doing everything wrong. I'm healing wrong. I'm thinking wrong. I'm training wrong. I'm doing relationships wrong. Everything I do is wrong, and I'm so sick of it. Stop comparing. It's not even about comparison. Like, I genuinely just want love in my life so badly. It's literally not about... healthier than I've ever been. I take such good care of myself. Truly, the only thing I'm missing in my life is someone to enjoy it with. And I'm so sick of waiting. Like, when is it going to be my turn? What more do I have to do to fix myself before I'm just allowed to be happy? Before I'm allowed to meet this universe soulmate person that God supposedly has for me? How much harder do I have to pray and manifest and wait? I feel like I'm being punished for something I didn't do. And I'm just so tired. I'm so tired. I don't expect a lot. I just want love in my life so bad. I want my life partner. I just supposed to be alone. Like, is that the message? That this beautiful life I built for myself, like, it's just supposed to be me in it alone? Like, I know I have my dog and I love him so much, but like, I need love. All of my friends have their fiancés and their boyfriends and their husbands that they prioritize. I'm concerned I've been left behind. And I really just want to find that person that matches my energy and wants to build a life with me. Is that so hard?
So there's a lot there to before we get into some of the more emotional content. Here we are in the Cayman Islands. We're talking about the economics of relationships. What does that look like? Someone is starting their life, they're trying to figure things out, and both men and women were going to go, okay, you know what? We're going to try to make some money. We're going to try to do the things. But what I'm hearing her saying is she did that, but something didn't happen at the end of the road. What are the numbers here in the Cayman Islands to make life work? If you're a single person, you're married, what are the numbers that makes life work here in the Cayman Islands?
Single, perfect. No.
Single, as I said.
Well, I'll speak as a banker because I see a much wider range. But I would say, well, you know, pre-COVID,
Yes.
because everything seemed to have just changed since then. Pre-COVID, if you were earning $4,000 per month, you could survive fairly well, right? So it means that you could actually afford to buy a home and a car and live. Well, assume you don't have 10 kids, but otherwise, yes. But that was then. I suspect that that number may have doubled since, at least doubled since, because based on what I'm seeing now and what I'm hearing. So, for example, I was at National Housing today, and their minimum salary to qualify is now $6,000. I'm like, okay,
Wow.
that says it, doesn't it? Meaning, if you're earning less than 6,000, you're in the poverty line. Okay.
Yes.
So I think it's about $8,000 now.
8,000 per person. 8,000. Rochelle, what are the numbers? Because I mean, we can talk about these things, and we're gonna get to the male-female dynamic. But as a woman courting, that still means you're not married yet. But how does that work? What kind of numbers do you need to make life work here in the Cayman Islands?
At this point, the poverty has poverty, and I think I'm in it. But I don't think there's anybody who's, well, not anybody, but the vast majority of people are not making the 8,000 that he's speaking about that would require us to be above the poverty line. So there's a lot of us who are scrambling for funds, trying to rebudget, trying to do without. We're compounding finances by dealing with extended families sometimes. I think that's how a lot of us probably survive. But then for the Christian aspect, we kind of have to go on faith. Right? I mean, there's the part of returning your tithes. And sometimes when you look at no matter how much you make, if you're returning the 10%, it becomes quite a big number. And you look into it and you're like, if I give away this much, if I return this much, am I really going to make it to next payday? Kind of thing. But because you are a person of faith, you do it and you leave it and say, well, I am going to get through it somehow.
Yes.
If somebody is going to bring the food or the finances, or if I'm going to happen upon a side job that is going to allow me to gain the extra. But a lot of us, even those who don't have the strong religious affiliation, have to go and are pushed into a faith-driven belief that they're just going to have to believe that tomorrow is going to be better.
And in that hope, in that belief, in that faith that tomorrow is going to be better, we still live in the world where we have to live until or live through the month on faith while we're making things work. I think the average salary, Linville, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is somewhere around $45,000 to $50,000.
That's right.
Right? So that's not quite the $6,000 to make life work. And so we're talking about this inflation crisis that we're living through in the Cayman Islands. How does this inflation crisis affect relationships? Because if just by yourself you need 6,000 and you have to work on that faith, how do we make that work in the mate selection process?
I don't know why you guys looking at me as if
Well, you're courting, so you know.
Well, to be fair, I was never really an individual who liked to depend on another person. I don't like it. I prefer to be the one that's depended on, but not necessarily in the faction of courting. In my friendly relationships, I prefer to be the one that has, because I like to give. I don't really like to be given, because then I feel indebted somewhat. And some people do count these things. So it's just not a nice line to be treading, because you never really know who is who. But I think in terms of what's happening here and how you should expect that people in relationships do things, and of course I can only speak from my experience, I like to refuse it and I will do without. But I have come to terms with the fact that because he cares, he will extend his help sometimes. And at first I wouldn't take anything else except maybe a meal. And I would try to do without. If I had to reach out maybe for a few dollars, I would pay it back.
It's a soft loan.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also gratitude, and it's also respect, because a lot of times people are very wary of persons who will get into relationships and use those for financial buffering. and you don't want to be seen as one of those.
To help me and maybe the audience as well to understand what that financial buffering means.
Okay, well, some people are very parasitic and they like to engage in relationships in order to obtain what they would not otherwise be able to obtain financially. So that's what I mean by financial buffering.
You learn.
Could you put the mic a little closer to you?
All right, there you go. So I appreciate you sharing that. And one of the things I'm unpacking here is, do we have, big picture, do we have the same goals and the same roles in relationships? And you said that you want to make sure that you are the giver and not the you prefer to be the giver and not the given. We're going to come back to that as we talk about how it plays out.
Before we come back, please remember that I said I like to be the giver, and that was in friendly dynamics, not in a relationship dynamic. Thank you. And
that's important to underscore, whether or not when you practice something, does it continue or does it need to change? But Linval, from the banking perspective, who do you see coming in for housing loans? Do you see couples? Do you see women? Do you see men? Who would you say?
Well, predominantly it's women. By my count and by what I'm seeing, women are the primary income earners here in the Cayman Islands. I see that quite a bit. When couples come, a lot of times the wife earns more than the husband. So I can't imagine what that home life is like. But it does create some challenges, I'm sure. So
My bad.
He wants to jump in.
Yeah.
And again, remember, we're looking at the landscape. We haven't gotten into the weeds yet. We're just looking at the landscape. What things look like on the ground.
Right. So the females rule the roost at this time, the financial roost for sure. Based on what I'm seeing.
Okay. Dwayne, you wanted to jump in.
So I used to be in banking too, let me just say. But after studying,
you have to let the people let me see you.
No, everybody know who's doing it. After studying the dynamics of Cayman, you realize that there's so many Caymanian women here. I mean, the population is 70,000, and out of that 70,000, you might find probably about 15,000 Caymanian women. Probably. I'm just guessing, right? Now, based on the immigration state rules, laws here, it prohibits a man to have, if he's an expat, to a large extent, depending on what his discipline is, what his work is, his occupation is. It prevents him a lot, probably in these first stages, to be earning what at regular, whether male or female, Caymanian earns. And so that can affect the numbers that you're seeing coming in front of you.
So you're making the case that part of the challenge or part of the disparity may be found in Caymanian women marrying expat men, and so there's a challenge.
Because I'm sure when you see two Caymanian comes in, it might not be the same.
You might have a point there.
I have a point. Thank you.
You may be onto something there. Yes.
That there may be something there. There's also the challenge across the board that men may be a little bit less advantaged or a little bit more challenged as far as income is concerned. And I speak about this from the classroom perspective. We talked about in previous shows that in the classroom that I teach in, sometimes there are 4 women to 1 man, or so I've even taught classes where there are no men at all and we have 8 or 9 or 10 students. So you're seeing a disparity in terms of going through the education process, which then also translates into a disparity in earning potential. You go to college, usually on the surface, you tend to earn a little bit more. So across the board, we're seeing men may not be earning, on a whole, in general, as much as women in general. What does this mean from the relationship as we jump into the weeds? And what does this mean from the relationship perspective? Do you prefer to be the giver, but not in the relationship side, right? That's what you said.
I didn't say not in, but I say it's different. To be fair, a lot of these things come with trust. And first of all, you need to know yourself and your own boundaries.
No, before we
Because-
get into the trust, my apologies. Before we get into the
Well,
trust,
I
just
cannot
on the
speak on it
surface.
without my trust, because it is my trust that determines whether or not I allow certain things.
But before we go to the allow, what we're trying to look at is what you're looking for. So before you meet a nice guy and go, I'm gonna sacrifice a few things. You want to, in general, women want to determine what they want.
Well, a lot of us want a provider. I would think most of us want a provider.
Yes.
But a provider comes in many forms as well. A lot of people are raised to think and know that a man back in the day as a provider would be the one who is financially competent.
Yes.
But of course, as things continue to grow, expand, change, the definition of a provider can also change.
And certainly that definition will shift if we're seeing fewer and fewer men who are in the financial capacity to be able to provide. So then you might find yourself making some concessions. What I'm hearing you saying is that you might want to make some concessions on the provider section. Is that what you're saying?
Explain.
So what I'm wondering if you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is as you're looking at the landscape, trust. This is where you're bringing the trust back in. What does that look like for you?
Well, I have to know the person that I'm dealing with. Otherwise, I would not want to take any financial gains from them, really. Because, as I said, I don't like to be a person who's indebted. And also, when you interact with people, you realize that there are certain people who will give you things and then throw it back in your face and said, well, I did X for you, so this is what I'm expecting. Or they just like to tell people that this is what they've done. I don't like that. That's not something that I personally can put up with. If that happens between us, it stays between us, or there should not be the tit for tat kind of attitude. If it's a tit for tat attitude, there are certain things that I don't think we would survive.
Okay.
So sometimes it comes to contribution
Yes.
from the partners, right? Because I've heard that conversation just last week. I want a partner who can contribute 50-50. I want a partner who can contribute 40%, whatever. So contribution comes into play. I have a personal philosophy, which is probably a bad thing to share. But I think if I'm going to go into a partnership, if I'm walking when I'm into that partnership, I should be flying, right? So I should be going further. It doesn't necessarily mean that the financial contribution will make us fly, but it means that there must be something in the dynamic that makes us fly. But it's unlikely that we would fly if there's no financial contribution. Right?
Right. And when you talk about financial contribution, one of the things, and the statistics kind of bears out, is that when a woman earns more than 40% or 40% more than her partner or her spouse, that actually increases first let's say the relationship stress by 50%.
I'd agree.
You'd agree. Make sense?
I'd
So
agree.
why would you agree?
Well, technically, being that men are taught to be providers, men are expected to be providers, if they can't reach the capacity that they are expected to, at least the notion that is set in their heads, it would be an egotistical blow. It could be, depending on how they view it, if they viewed in themselves that the financially being able to provide was a means of control, then they will obviously now feel that the woman has control. And that would not really bode well, I think, for a man.
It's interesting that you use the word control, and I don't know, from the financial perspective, you find this happening a lot. Do you find that men are trying to have control when they're the providers?
No, because there's something shocking something else that was shocking that I realized is that most men literally earn the funds and take it straight to their wives.
That does not go for all people.
A lot.
Please.
Yes.
In other words, there's a significant portion.
Yes.
I made
Yeah,
that
not
comment,
all.
right.
When we use statistics, we're never talking about all.
Right.
Okay.
And so there's this guy, I remember talking to him, and he said, look, when she handles it, it stretches. When
Yes.
I do it, it just falls apart. And that was his view. I'm like, okay, that's interesting, right? So there is a fair percentage of men who leaves the financial management to their wives.
But financial management is also different from financial accumulation, because if he earns more and it is only management, she can only manage what he brings in.
Sure.
Help
that
me
is
to
still-
help me to understand what you're unpacking there.
If you make more money than me,
Yes, or if I make all the money.
if you make all the money, or
Yes.
if you make more money than me,
Yes.
and your contribution is larger,
Yes.
but you have no ability to budget
Mm-hmm.
and provide, and I have that ability, then I can only multiply what you give me,
Yes.
right? And if you stop that,
Mm-hmm.
then what would I have? But what I have is less.
What you have is, well, I guess that's what we're trying to unpack there, and I'm setting it against the backdrop of the trust, because if you walk in, and Dwayne was able to share this, I mean, you've said this many times, so I'm not putting a business on the street. Katie manages the money, and I mean, that's her experience, that's her
My wife has been an accountant for 25 years. I have been an accountant for 0 years. Right? Who you think should really manage the money at my house? She manages more money than I have.
But that was not really the point.
So I'm just using that to set the backdrop. So once we've established that, you're saying,
What I'm saying, if the woman is still financially depending on the money that the man provides, even if she manages it, she doesn't necessarily own it. Unless you want to say that when she gets it in her hand, she can do what she wants with it. But even that would be limited. So if I know that you're bringing home a pot full of food,
yes.
right? And a pot full of food is to share for everybody. But I also know that without you, I get no pot of food, even though I share it out. Then am I not still dependent on you?
So, okay. So here's what we're trying to understand. Is there a problem? And again, toss the numbers out. Is there a challenge with us depending on each other?
It's a partnership.
And this is where I say you have to know who you're dealing with. In the world of dating and getting to know, if I just meet you and you just meet me and we go to dinner, are you going to trust me with your money?
No.
Okay. I'm not trusting you with mine either.
But here we're talking about the married people.
So, okay,
we're
so
talking
if you're
about
going
in
to
the
talk,
relationship.
if you're going
Yes.
to talk now about marriage, then the
Yes.
trust is already established. It should be established, right?
Right.
No, you will have sometimes, and again, generalizing, you have sometimes where when the money comes in, if somebody, either provider or manager, is going to say, hey, I need to know where these funds are going. I need to know what you're doing with it. If there is no trust in the person spending or being able to say, hey, unless you're, if they're pitching out the money to you, then expecting to know where you're spending it, what you're spending it on, then of course there's going to be a lot of stress. But if you have a communication where you decide this is how things operate, this is how it works best for us, regardless of who's making the money, then it should proceed without much complication.
Actually, you have touched on a very good point, because a part of the financial relationship in a marriage or in a committed relationship is that what you expect is that there's transparency
Exactly.
between partners. So there's a discussion and there's an understanding as to what happens, you know. And if you were to go the route of doing some kind of financial plan, then maybe you'll be allocating your funds based on certain percentages or certain expectations,
Of course.
right? So you allocate your funds to your priorities.
There
as you
should
say.
be a mutual budgeting.
Yeah, right, that's right.
So
But
then,
since you're managing the budget, then we'd expect you to
I'm
to
not
manage
managing
it.
the budget. You asked me a question. I'm not managing.
no. So in your example,
you're throwing me into like, well, I mean, that's fine. I can roll with it.
there you go. So in your example, I mean, Dwayne just went out, did an awesome job, brought home $1 million, and now he's giving it to you, and now you need to manage it.
I give it to Katie.
He gives it to Katie. That's right, because she manages bigger budgets, right? But here it is. You're the financial manager. Wouldn't there be a requirement on your part? So if he asks you how you're spending the money, wouldn't that be a part of the transparency? You letting me, well, we've invested in mutual funds and we've done some
He
things.
wouldn't have to ask me because we would have had a conversation saying this is how we allocate the money. It would, even if he gave it to me, for me, I would have to have us sit down and we say, okay, how do we want this to go? How much do you want to save? What is your goal? So you have to have, I mean, this is how I do.
All right, let me just make something clear for
Yes.
the entire Cayman and the rest of the world to know. The fact that tell you that my wife is
If there's a trust challenge in one, first, because I mean, first the man trusts you. He takes the money and he brings it to you and says, here, spend it. But then, of course, we reward trust by providing information or transparency.
transparency.
I mean, and we do that with companies, right? Companies have to present their financial records at the end of each year to go, yes, we plan to spend it this way, but you might have some overages in one area and then you might have some savings in others. So it's safe that we
Sounds
can.
reasonable.
Sounds reasonable. What do you find in terms of financial planning, Linval, in terms of the couples coming in or the persons coming in? Do you, and this may be putting business on the street, do you often find secret accounts? I hear all the time about these secret accounts.
Of course. That's a way of life, anyway. As bankers, I can be speaking to husband and wife,
Yes.
and he has something or she has something or they both have stuff, and I can never say it. We can never disclose it, right? But it happens, not necessarily so much, but it does happen. It certainly does happen.
it's not always the same as mistrust.
It's not all, because that's where I'm going. When you say it's not always the same, talk to me.
The reason for this is
Yes.
not one and the same as not trusting the other. Sometimes it's an extra buffer that either the man or the woman wants to have that he or she will spend in the house.
That's
if
correct.
needed.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. Because what also happens is that if I'm a saver and you're a spender,
Yes.
and you will still hide the funds, but really in the interest of the family, not necessarily for yourself. So that also happens.
Yeah.
So it's not just that for the. Or sometimes some mothers will look out for their kids' tuition and stuff like that. So they'll do it.
I have heard so many with things like that, and then they come to the knowledge that there is a hidden trust, and then that becomes an issue or a part of contention to say, oh, well, you've hidden these funds. Now, in a loving relationship, I mean, whilst it may be sort of a shock or something, I would think that it would be more a relief than, oh my goodness, you're hiding funds from me. So we have to determine that even though we have marriages are not always based on trust. It can be based on mutual benefit or selfish benefit, either way. But there are different reactions for same actions.
Yeah. And so therefore there are deeper issues beyond
Exactly.
beyond the finances.
Yes. So lots of things to unpack there. And I guess if we go back to the video and we look at it and we explore, here's this woman. She has built up, she said in the video that, hey, she's built up resources for herself. She's given a great life to herself. She's given all of these things to herself that should make for, hey, a wonderful life. But she's having a challenge finding someone to share it with. And so the thing I'm trying to get to here when we talk about finances is, do men and women view money in the same way? We touched on it a little bit in terms of the control. Some women may view the man making more money as a bid to control the relationship, while he may be thinking that's his role, that's his responsibility to be the provider.
I mean, both can be true at the same time. But if we're going back to her case, her
Yes.
specific case, there are a few things there that compile to make a very maybe not clear, but a bigger picture. First, she says that everybody says she's doing it wrong. She's obsessed with having a particular life, like nesting for her proposed husband to come along. She also says she makes mention of a higher power, so it seems like she believes that in some affinity there is a higher power and that he controls what's happening. She also says it's unfair, is this her punishment? And then she's saying, well, she's done, she believes that she's done what she needs to do, and that all of her friends are married, so she feels like she's being left behind. So this feeling that she's having that we're seeing may just be a vent session and not actually a feeling in the moment, and not necessarily what she's going to sober up to afterwards. But the majority or the gist of it is that she is rushing to find someone to put in this place that she has created at this point, and she doesn't want to be left behind by her peers. Because I can say for myself, when my girlfriends all got boyfriends, I was very lonely. Who did I have to hang out with? I called so and so, oh, I'm out with my boyfriend. I called so and so, we're at a group hangout, and I'm left by myself. So maybe the emergence of feelings of loneliness are just extremely leaving her extremely vulnerable at this point. Now, she also says, I have a dog, but a dog cannot return the affection that she's looking for. But whilst you are waiting for your person, it would help you to kind of get involved and keep yourself busy. If your sole purpose and your point is seeking a man, you're going to find a wrong one. You may not even, she's rushing.
No, well,
Yeah?
from the video,
From the video, she
she's
seems to be in a
not
rush.
rushing. No, she's actually been single. She mentioned that she's been single for
Oh,
a
she's
while.
been single, but
And
her mentality behind what she's saying is that I cannot wait. I just want someone. I want someone now. That for me perceives an immediate need or immediate craving for someone to fill the spot. And if your thought process is that, and if that is what is going to be your driving force, you may just fall for the wrong individual or the first person who presents a facade of what you're looking for.
Fair enough. Before I unpack it, is there anything that jumped out at you, Limba?
Well, I guess it gets into relationships and what women look for and what men look for. If I'm hearing her right or understanding her right, she may have made herself intimidating for the men.
That comes along with it.
So that's one of the things. So she have made herself intimidating, and maybe she's also not presenting herself in a way because most men will see her as, oh, she's self-sufficient, not interested, or she doesn't need me. She doesn't need me.
And you can unpack that to only say that maybe perhaps she is self-sufficient and intimidating, and not that the man is feeling insecure with himself.
So certainly this leaves room for interpretation on all sides, but this is the one he's taking away, and the idea here is, can both things be true?
Of course.
Okay.
Right. So both things definitely can be true. So what is she presenting, and how does she make herself attractive? And the next thing is she's looking a lot inward. If she just makes herself ideal for the man that she wants, maybe she'll attract the right guy. The laws of attraction comes into play here, and so if she just back off a little bit and just do the right things and just wait, it will happen.
I also agree that she's putting a lot of energy into just seeking. If she did do what he's saying, I think she would be a little bit more digestible.
The other question
For
is
certain
she
individuals.
fishing in the right pond? All of that, right? Because if her income level is here and everybody's all the men in her group or in her ecosystem income level is here, it's going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
And just to sidetrack, men, there is a feeling that men need to feel needed. Because if you don't, then what's the point?
And this is important to unpack the difference in process for men and women. So you mentioned both things can be true, but here's the idea. If a man more often than not is spending time with a woman who doesn't need him, she doesn't need him, she's got, just like she said, she's got everything that she needs, so she just wants him, then he is either going to just be there to extract resources, which is not the man that she's looking for, or he's not going to be there because he has no purpose, and men need purpose in order to give their life value.
But is their only purpose financial? Albeit that a man, and this is part of a man's build-up, because in order for a man to feel satisfied that he's going to be able to provide for his future wife, he's going to want to make sure he is secure in assets and financial financial funds, and he's going to want to make sure that he can provide for her in whatever deficiency she has.
Yes.
Now,
Needs.
visibly, according to what she's saying, she has no deficiency
Or has no need.
or has no need. So yes, it's going to be much harder. The only persons who would be able to do that is a man who has a less of a financial gap, even if he still does not make more or more, making more. Because, and I'm not saying it can't work with a man who makes less, but the need may be more emotionally hinged. I don't quite think I can expound on that because that's not my thing.
Fair enough.
So there are holes in that.
So I wanted to connect it to something that you said, Linval. Is she fishing in the right pond? So as she is building up herself, one of the things that tends to happen is women tend to be attracted, as you mentioned, the ideal is to be attracted to or connected to someone who earns more or earns at least the same or higher. At least the same or higher based on the statistics, for relationship stability and to avoid certain level of marital conflict. One of the things it says is women who earn 40% more, their marital conflict jumps up to 45% or jumps up by 45%. So there are some statistical challenges that present themselves. So no, that said, as women go to school and study more and earn more and get side businesses and get extra money, what does that mean on the relationship front? You want to jump?
I'll just ask one more question before we move on, right? And think about yourself, ladies in the room and listening. How would you feel if your partner earned significantly more than you? That's one. And two, how would you actually treat him in a relationship?
I think it's normal when men, at least we view it as normal when men earn more than us. But significantly more is still a power play. I mean,
I want you to unpack that for your...
It's a power play, not necessarily in the fact that the person with more money is trying to be in a position of power, but more that the person who has without feels powerless. All right, so expounding on that, right?
That one's tickling doing.
If I feel that I am not making enough of a contribution to be a valid partner.
So that's an important thing, and I want to bring you in on this because while you said before for the man, it doesn't require for him to be financial provider. What it sounds like you're saying then is that if you're not making a financial contribution, the woman.
Yes, like I said, it goes for both, right? But what I'm saying, those situations can occur. Granted, not often. A woman who makes more can still marry a man with less. Though most times in that situation, the man is very aggressive in trying to build himself, and the woman is more a structure of support. Yeah? I've seen those situations, I've also seen...
Let's see if we can bring it back to the place where...
I'm coming right back to where you said. But even for a woman, if she feels like she's not able to put some sort of, especially in this day and age, because it is expected at this point that survival is a compiling of both salaries, right?
And that's where we get to bring in the phone lines. If there's someone on the phone...
I am on the phone. The phone number is 945-9029. 945-9029. But let me just tell you... I grew up in a space where my dad told my mother not to work. And that's because he loved her and wanted her to take care of her and to take away the distraction from her while he's out there. He didn't want another woman to rear his children.
And that is key, actually.
And that's a very noble thing to do.
And it doesn't matter how much money the woman earns or contributes, it cannot be as valuable as mothering
building a family.
No,
The kids.
It never will be.
And you spoke from a Christian's perspective earlier on. That is actually biblically the role of the woman.
And I do not negate that in any sense.
But you are in
So
choppy
the-
waters there.
So the root here, before you get yourself into trouble, the root here is, as you said, and this may be a view held by other women in terms of the relationship. The man is expecting you to contribute, and if you don't contribute, then you're not a valid partner. I'm going to put it here, right here on the Wrecking Trade. We don't care. There's more value in you bringing yourself to the relationship than your money.
That's
Most
fine.
men, let me say it again, most men don't care. Don't
Perhaps
care
maybe we
about
can
the
find
money
those
that
men.
women bring to the table, because his job as a provider is supersedes whatever it is that you may bring. His job as the provider will supersede whatever it is that you may bring. Why? Because men and women want different things.
All right.
So
Men and women want different.
men and women want different things. The man wants to be the provider. And we're gonna
That's why I'm like,
This is why I say things get tricky. Because either or and both can exist in the same time. Dwayne's father had a noble undertaking for what he said. You have some men in this day and age that want their wives to stay home so they can be out doing what they gotta do and come home and the wife is subservient to them because she has to rely on him. There is always a dual play at hand, right? There's always a dual play. So it depends on where you want to put your perspective. And for a woman, in this day and age that I've grown up, we want to be self-sufficient to a degree. We don't want to be overpowering and take away your job of providing. But we do want to feel like contributors.
But who's that
Yeah.
for? Let me bring you in before I go to that question.
Well, just two things.
Yes.
First one, it's
So
just
what happens if I don't have no picnic? What guy do I
just that job, right? And I think it was Denzel Washington who said this. If I earn 60,000 and you earn 40,000, the amount of household funds is 60,000.
Yes.
Right? That's one. That's how we kind of view it as well, and that's how you. But anyway,
That's held. I said another way. My money is our money, and her money is her money.
right? So that
And
exists.
that works too.
But let's get back to the question of contribution.
Yes.
Because if I may say so, don't slap me for saying this. You are downplaying the contribution of building a family,
Yes.
and it's a very big contribution.
And family does not just mean children. Just to qualify and clarify.
Hold on, let me clarify something.
Yes, go ahead.
Never again will I sit in the middle. Never again. And this is exactly why I didn't want to sit in the middle. No. I am not trying to downplay the importance of a mother's role in
Yes.
the house.
Right.
But due to current social norms and financial constraints, it is not just a wish to contribute, it's a necessity. How many single people can come into the bank and get a home?
No, but you're
No.
How
How many single people of average financial capacity under that 6,000 poverty
Need $6,000 to $8,000
poverty
need.
line can afford a home?
All right. So for us it comes down to income.
Yes.
Basically,
It all
that's long and short of it.
is that the end. Renting is not exactly what people want to do. Renting is what people are forced to do because they cannot afford.
And to be fair, remember this COVID only just happened recently. So you gave the numbers that this has been happening. Persons would have been able to earn and spend and do all these things. But we understand that right now we're in the financial inflation crisis. Right? But before
It's not
now,
going to end anytime soon.
that may not end anytime soon. So right now, part of what I'm imagining you're seeing in the bank is people are trying to now figure out how do we earn more so that we can get back to stability or normalizing the situation, as Dwayne said with his father, where the man can earn more so that he can take care of, not control, take care of the family that he loves. And that family can just be the two of you. So he can go, hey, I need to earn enough so that when I come home, I can make sure that you have everything that you need. Because do you like waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning and fighting traffic to go to work?
No, I don't.
So if I'm-
I like to sleep on the way while my husband drives.
But where are you going? Where are you going, right? Because here's the idea. The idea here is, to what end are you battling traffic? Sitting with your coworker that you don't like and putting up with deadlines that you don't like. If this man wants to give you this gift, why is it often seen as control?
How many
or-
people are often capable of giving that gift?
No,
first
before we
and
get to
foremost?
capacity, before we get to the ability,
Well,
before we
you
get to
can't- You can't
capability.
tell me about my expectation or ask me about my expectation if we're not going to take into account the reality of the situation, because that's what my expectation is based on.
But it's not the reality just yet.
Oh Lord, we have a commentary.
Well, wait, because it's not.
We're setting
Yeah, we're setting the groundwork,
Setting
as in
the
what the ideal, before we can get
So
to.
what is all right? The ideal that you guys are looking for.
Yes.
Am I correct in stating that the ideal is to get back to Bible times where women are allowed to stay at home and rear their children?
Let's see. Of the men in the room, is that something that you would want to give as a gift to a woman?
Yes.
You sure?
Show of
Many of
hands.
us can be very contentious.
Yes,
You sure
yes.
you don't want us out of the house?
I wanted to say something
Yes.
though. I really wanted to say something. Don't go into a relationship not with a okay. This is a blank slate you're going with, right?
Yes.
You should not walk with mistrust under your
Tucked
pocket
into your purse.
into your purse to pull out.
You should not.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of the situation is that these things exist.
Okay, well,
so unless we're not going to
Okay,
base the
okay.
conversation on
Let
the
me just change.
reality
Let
of
me just change that.
existence,
Let me just say
then
that. Let me just change that. Do not. I'm not saying that you should not. Do not
Yes.
go into a relationship with mistrust in your purse, ready to pull out.
You know, I'm gonna go further out on the limb than you doing. Here's the thing. While the reality obtains that people can break into your house and steal everything,
Yeah.
you still buy things and put in your house, right?
because it's a necessity. If I didn't have to, it could stay bare.
Good. So why is it then that we don't treat relationships with the same concept of necessity? It's of a necessity. This is where you're going.
Yeah.
You need to have trust in the relationship. It
Yeah.
can be broken, it can be fractured, but you need to have trust in the relationship.
And if
I
it's
said
not,
it from
if
the
it's
get-go.
never broken, you don't need to have that cushion in your purse to say it might be broken.
How many relationships that you see survive have never had their trust broken in some capacity or the other?
I don't look at them really.
Then you can't.
No, but
Then you can't really say that.
Linval is one wanting to say. Jump in, Linval.
So back to reality. You're talking about reality. What has been happening recently, and this was a study out of Canada, professional women at the top of their game are bailing out of their professions to go home and have kids.
Yes, because now they realize that all of that, what they've been working for, has left them exhausted, without gas, without anything to really trouble for, and they have come to the reality that children and house rearing is really where the benefits are.
Right. And so, to your point, you said reality. So, it's not that you can't stay at home. I'm not personally advocating it, but it's not that you can't stay at home, because
Of course not.
it does add true value.
If I did not have to struggle for the financial coins and dollars, you don't think I'd want to stay at home too?
There you go. Okay.
Okay.
So here,
Remember that you're not married.
No, but I have an idea of what I would like in my marriage.
great. And so here's the idea. The things that we're preparing for, the end that we're looking toward. Are we doing the necessary work? And you touched on this, Linval, in term when you said that fishing in the pool that you want to connect with. Fishing in the pool for the fish that you want to connect. If you are presenting independent energy, presenting self-sufficient energy, presenting I can do all this by myself energy, then you would be fishing in the pool that says, hey, this is the kind of man that I want to attract. What would happen to the man if he goes, okay, fine, I see you doing all that independent stuff. I like that independent stuff because now we're doing 50-50, but you want to now transition in marriage to make him into the provider. Would that feel like a fair deal to him? Would you think that that's a fair deal to him?
Well, the same way that a man can financially bring home the bacon and say, hey, manage it? Can a woman not do the same and bring home the money and say, hey, you be the lead? It's also the same without finance, because if a woman respects her husband, even if she has more knowledge or more say, or she could speak better than him in a particular surrounding, is she going out of love, trust, and respect to outshine him, outdo him, maybe probably cut up his ego and then deflate him, emasculate him in the presence of others? No, she would not.
You hope.
You hope. She should not. She
I'm
may
sorry.
not.
I thought
You hope
we
not.
were dealing with we are putting ideals and then we're putting reality. So which one
Fair
are we
enough.
barking up now?
Fair enough. So let me ask you, Linval, is this what you find obtaining as the women are earning more and doing more and spending more, and they're bringing home the bacon to the men? Are you finding, and this is no personal, may
Turkey
not be the
bacon.
banking, bringing home the turkey bacon? Do you find the same level of success, the same level of joy, the same level of connection as these women? Or you're finding more single women in the professional field?
Well, where you find them, and if the wife earns significantly more than the husband, I sense a bit of hopelessness in the men. Because when they come to the bank, they just sit there
And she does everything.
and she does everything. Right? And that immediately sends a signal. Right? When they go out to the restaurant, she has to give him the money on the table so he can pay.
Can I ask a question now? What then, for you guys,
Yes.
would be the ideal situation for you with a woman that earns more than you if you were in a relationship? How would you want her to do that? Would not the right process be then, if we're going somewhere and he does not have the know-how or skill set, then should she not educate him in that so he can then be at the same level?
That's true, but let me answer that because I cannot give you an answer. So, when I was married, my wife was my boss, and she earned way more than I did.
Nobody told you to marry your
Right?
boss.
And so she earned more than I did, but I couldn't live with that. So within 2 or 3 years, we flipped the script, right? But even so, that's probably a bit egotistic. But take that out of the picture, right? Remember I said, if I'm in a relationship, if by myself, if I'm walking with a relationship, I want to fly. If you're earning more than I am, we're going to fly, and I'm okay, right? Because I know that I'm going to improve. So it doesn't intimidate me in any way.
Yes, but that is something that a man would have to work on. That's not necessarily something for a woman to work on.
Right.
Where I think the woman has to do the work is that sometimes when she becomes what people would consider overly successful, is that the inherent need to always be in control because she's no longer used to being submissive causes the problem.
So what is it?
Question. so say I am a average taxi driver.
Or the gardener?
Taxi driver this time. Taxi driver this time. I'm not the
Probably
gardener
earn more than
this
I
time.
think,
Is it leave the gardener out this week?
Right? And there's just something about me that, and I don't want to call names, but say I had to bring some people from the airport one day, and it was Mr. Dart's daughter, and she just liked me. There's just something inside of me that just appealed to a need that she has, or the prince, or the king daughter, or whoever it is, or some rich,
It does happen.
right. What are you suggesting that I do? I look here. I like her too, and the fact that you have money too, I even like her some more. What are you suggesting that I do?
You have
And what are you suggesting that she does? If okay, I understand the need of money and all those things, but at the end of the day, I've seen too many cases where people with lots of money die. Lots of money commit suicide because some important needs are not being met.
There was a study once done several years ago while I was still in school, so it's long been outdated.
It's not that
But
You just
it's not for you guys.
you just started.
So it was stated that a lot of times loneliness in successful people leads to a lot of suicides. Whereas because people are poor and they don't have the financial capacity, their comfort is leaning on others. So as long as they have that support network, you do not actually find that amount of suicide cases there. I do not know if that still stands, but I would want to think that the underlying rhetoric is still somewhat applicable even today.
There's something else. There's something that means more to people
Than the finances.
than just the finance.
So we understand that there's something that means more to persons than the money. What we're looking at here is, and I guess what we've been able to unpack, even just in this conversation, is that the money means different things to men and women.
To different people.
So what I've found consistently is that as men, we're saying the money is not a means to control, it's a means to provide whether food or a gift to say, hey, I'd love to be able to take care of you so that you don't have to work. That's a gift. And if that gift is received negatively, are you trying to control me? Then there's a disconnect between the thing that I'm offering and the thing that you're receiving.
Which communication should abate.
Which we hope, but it doesn't always.
No, of
Because what we're hearing is if the distrust is tucked into your purse, we could talk it through all we want. There's a landmine that is planted in there. It's too good to be true, and so I can't even trust it. Which means the trust even gets multiplied even
But
more.
this is the condition of the place that we live in.
This is the
This
condition.
is the condition, and this is what I'm saying. This is what I have been trying to tell you. The ideal is still what women want. The ideal is still what good men want to provide. But in the place of this reality, we have been conditioned in certain realms, certain spaces, that we cannot depend on men to be the provider alone, because they go out and get away with too much, and their mothers are now teaching them to be independent, and they're now swollen up with the ability to be independent and not allowing the right man into their lives to be that provider, because they're scared of it, they're not used to it, they're not sure how to let it happen, and men don't know how to help them take that guard down. And a lot of times, instead of having that communication, that talk through, that time to build, know each other's problems, their issues, and build each other up, what is happening is that if the instant love doesn't make a difference, they're not waiting around, they're not going to deal with it, it just doesn't work.
So there's a huge challenge in the landscape. And we started off the conversation by saying, is money ruining your relationship? And now I guess we can expand it to money and or training. So as we part company, as we're about to wrap up the show, what is the advice? And you, Linval, you can share from the perspective of how you mentioned that you found yourself in that situation, but you're able to capitalize, you're able to strategize, you're able to switch it. And if women still want the ideal, whether it is the taxi driver, he's probably going to need to figure out a way how to make a little bit more, not so that he can make her love him, but so that he can veer away from some of the challenges that money will inevitably bring. So let's start with you, Rochelle. You want the ideal.
always.
We're looking at the challenge. The landscape is the way it is, but you still want the ideal.
Pose the question again. What's the actual question?
So you want the ideal. The landscape is the way it is. How
How do you
do we
achieve that?
get there? Yes. Mother told you wrong. Not your mother in general. Mothers might have told their daughters wrong things. Be independent. And that's the way the landscape. So we've planted distrust in the garden. How do we now get distrust in the garden so we can bring back honeymoon?
Well, if we're looking at wanting the ideal and knowing that the landscape is not catering sufficiently to it, the first thing you do is pray.
Okay.
Yeah? Because if you know it's far and maybe your own effects unachievable, you work on yourself. You position yourself for greater. You then seek out, I guess, then in terms of sometimes, to be fair, when you seek out, you tend to find the wrong things. It's when you sit down that certain things drop in front of you and you realize, oh, look.
Laws of attraction.
Yes. So be that as it may, laws of attraction, when you combine, then after building whatever trust and and open communication and transparency that you need, you sit down and you make a game plan. Because if I don't have it and you don't have it, we have to get it. And what I've been hearing through the whole thing is what he has to do, what she has to do, but not what we do. And it's a married couple, so why isn't it a we?
That's an interesting perspective, and the we here is make sure that we're clear on the show, because I want to bring the importance of what you're going to be able to share with us, Linval. There are some things that we need to walk into the relationship with.
Of course.
There are some things that we need to walk into the relationship with, and that, because of society, because of the nature of situations, men need to walk into the situation with some amount of a vision, because you can't lead without a vision. You can't provide without a vision for provisioning and a plan to provide for the family.
And an income.
And that income to be able to do it, right? Provisioning. And more often than not, she's not going to trust you to protect her if you don't look like you can mash ants.
That's right.
How many some other men married? I mean, it stands to reason.
There you go. So what we're talking about, and what this show encourages men to do, is to find that place where there are being able to bring certain things before into the relationship to mitigate some of the challenges that the current landscape presents. Right? And so from that perspective.
And so the ideal.
Yes.
We're talking about the ideal. The ideal, what I would propose as the ideal is to, what you said, we. The ideal is to do what's best for your family and the vision for your family. Right? So if staying home is what's best, then so be it. Although there are ways you could do it. So you could stay home for 3 years in the childbearing years and then return to the working world after. And so on. So there are many things that could be done. But ideally, do what's best for your family. So if the husband is a breadwinner, so be it. If the wife is a breadwinner, so be it. Right? Do what's best for your family. So with your vision and your actions, then you can take that, make that progress.
So speak to some young men now who are watching the show. They didn't go to school. They didn't go up. They don't necessarily have a trade. They don't even have the taxi. But they like young Miss Dart. What does that man need to do?
No, she like him.
Well, they like each other.
No, it's not she like him.
Uh-huh.
They like her.
They like each other.
No, they like her. Because they have guys who the girl don't like her.
But based on the landscape, he's going to need to put himself in a position, just like you, where he can be more attractive, but B, and more importantly, more viable as a mate.
Right? So first, you have to have a vision for yourself. Secondly, you have to present yourself in such a way. So in other words, if you need to study, if you need to be a professional footballer, do something with your life, do something positive with your life. And just be careful, don't jump into, so because I'm in banking doesn't mean I earn a lot, because a good plumber probably earns more than I do.
Yes.
Right? So we need to understand all that. Right? So do something with your life and present yourself with a vision. And that makes you attractive.
Okay. We have a call on the line. Caller, you're getting in the door before we close.
Hello, good night.
Yes, caller. What's your name?
Gosh, do I have to give my name?
Sure, let's call you Karen. Hello, Karen. How are you doing?
Hello, I am fine. Thank you. Very interesting topic. I was driving down and listening. I missed the part of it because I was also on another platform.
Okay.
But I came back to it when I was finished. And very interesting ideas and, opinions. I don't know if this was said before, because one thing I want to say is that when we get into a relationship or when there's a family, irrespective of who is making more money, at the end of the day, we need to know that we are doing what God expects of us. And a woman's role does not change because she's making more money. I know that some of my other female counterparts may not agree with me. One of the other things that I want to raise as well, that even when you make very good plans, and you need to make very good plans, things happen. You may start off very good, and somebody might get sick along the way. There might be an accident or something, or somebody may have lost a job. And I can speak to this because I remember growing up, my stepfather was the breadwinner, and then the company he was working with, it went out of business, and everything changes. Now, the thing also that we have to understand, when we're in a relationship, why and God has to be the center and the head of that relationship, because when situation changes, it's going to test what fabric, especially we women, are of. So even with men choosing women, even in the church, yes, I don't know if the matter of unequally yoked was touched, and it's not only about outside of the church. There are other areas as well, and I find that too, that there are people who may not have had the opportunity to go and get further education, and so, but yet, they are well qualified in their understanding and in doing. They're still there and considered healthy, earning as well as somebody, and not only those who, because they have to go to college and things like that. I know that time will not allow me to say all the things that I want to say, but also the other thing too, that I don't know if in today's culture, when people are going for counseling, if some of these things are raised, like money management, the financial controller of the family. It is all good. I could even share the fact that there was a time when I stayed home so I could take care of my children and give them the kind of just to be there, so that, and it was something that we discussed, to say that, okay, we're not going to have that amount of money coming in, but we put pen to paper and we work out how we were going to do things. And and that was not an issue. There was also another time when my husband was going to school and I was working, and when he was off, I did not see him any less because he did not have any money to contribute. I still acted as if he was the one that is, he's still the main breadwinner and things, and whatever I had earned, it was for us. It was not, oh, I went and worked and it's my money, so don't tell me how. The other thing too, because we are living in these last days and living in these times that, women are at the head of things now. If you look into the organization, you find that women are leading out into, and that is, nothing is wrong with that. But we must also recognize our role, recognize how much we can contribute, how much we can make our families work. Because even when we're working more money, at the end of the day, if we lose our families, it doesn't amount to anything. At the end of the day, if we lose our soul, it doesn't amount to anything. At the end of the day, if we did not put in what we needed to put in from either end into our family life, whether we're married or single or other people that we're caring for, it doesn't amount to anything. It's one of Satan's tactics to distract us. And what I find after, and again, this is coming from a female, that sometimes when we are earning more money, we
understand what we're looking at. I love that you said that, hey, just because you're making more doesn't mean that your role changes. And you also underscore the idea that this could happen through many reasons. This could happen out of necessity. This could happen out of circumstances. Someone loses their job. It doesn't now make them less of a person. It's just how the circumstances obtain. And that said, what we're doing is so that we can prepare for those eventualities, so that we can prepare for those situations, what we're trying to start off with is to set the design for the ideal, to set ourselves up. And I love that you said this also. Whether you are a gardener, a plumber, a banker, a doctor, whatever your situation is, make a plan for where you are. Make a plan for where you are that takes you from where you are to the next step. It may involve you going to see Linval to figure out, hey, I'm earning X. Do I invest? What do I do? Do I need to go and get a new skill? Do I need to upskill myself? Can I sell myself in new areas? What do I do to get to the next stage? I love that you also said that, hey, as your husband was home studying, you were okay with it. And I guess part of that was as he was home studying, you saw that as ambition, him upskilling himself so he can take himself to the next level. So just because you're just doing a couple of pipes now doesn't mean you can't get a new certification, doesn't mean you can't expand the business so that you can increase your ability to take care of the family. Caller, I appreciate you. You didn't give us your name, but tonight you're Karen.
Thank you. Take care.
All right, have a good night. All right. And so, as we wrap up, any final thoughts from you and you as we say thank you? And here we get a chance to share too. If you want to share with persons your socials, your contacts, if they want to reach out to you for support, or if you have a business that you want to sell some things, your side hustle.
I don't have the side hustle thing figured out yet. And it's not so much advice to people, but I think it's a topic that's always worth delving into because there are so many different aspects that do need to be addressed. But I think first and foremost, before even the coupling of anything begins, a person needs to give themselves to God and have an idea or a drive or a vision for themselves. Because getting into a relationship without that is only a recipe for disaster. If you know yourself and you know what you will accept and what you won't, you will know where to throw your line.
Know where to throw your line.
Very well. The young lady who was on TikTok?
Yes.
I was just thinking about it. I think what had happened to her is that she set herself a goal and she hit the goal.
Yes.
And then she gets stuck. Right? A goal is just a milestone, people. Once you hit it, then you have to set a new goal and move on again. So she seemed to have been stuck there. That's just an observation. I'm not a psychologist. Ladies, the CEO of Pepsi, or the former CEO of Pepsi, is a lady, it's an Indian lady. I don't remember her name. But I've heard her speak quite a few times about how she manages being a powerful CEO. And then she said when she gets home, her mother calls her and says, remember this, here you are a wife and a mother, and that's it. Right? And so it rebalances the whole dynamic, right? So that's one way to look at it. For the young men out there, get some meaning in your life. Give yourself a vision. There is a self-authoring program online that you can do. I hear it has worked for a while. I'm thinking of giving it to my own son, where you can set some parameters for your life, for your future, and that will help you to have some kind of vision. Yes. And so those are my final words.
Anywhere that people can reach you, do they need some financial assistance? They need some guidance or investment, how to grow their wealth or
Okay, so I do help persons who have financial, who wants to move from point A to point B. I can be reached at reimaginefinances.com and through school, but I'll have to get that up and running. So reimaginefinances.com is where you can reach me.
All right. So whatever your situation is, you can increase your finances, increase your situation. And what we're saying here, and the name of that lady is Indra Nuya. And that's powerful, understanding that just because you are high on the totem pole in your financial world doesn't mean it's the end of the line for you, as long as you can figure out the balance. But with that said, this is what we have a conversation here about. We don't know where else it's happening, but right here we have conversations about real things, real relationships, real situations. And to the young men who are listening, never give up on your dreams. Give yourself a vision and strive. Make some milestones, hit them, jump over them, and move on to the next one. And with that, until the next one, this is The Wrecking Trade.